G'day guys, how are you going? Well, are you tired of packing too much, or maybe just forgetting some items, or maybe just feeling a little bit unprepared when you do head away on a solo camping trip? Well, don't worry, I certainly have over the years. But in this video, I'm going to unpack my solo camping gear that I've got here and what I take away when I do head away on a solo camping trip. And fair dinkum, I'm going to show you exactly how much gear I do take. Well, maybe I should say how much gear I don't take, but I've got everything. Everything that I need is in the back of the four-wheel drive here. Let's check it out. Now, just before we dive into it and I do unpack the back of my trolley and show you the gear that I do bring away on a solo camping trip. Now, I've been travelling for many years now solo in with my four-wheel drive, and when I pack this thing up, space, weight and efficiency, it really matters. You know, and I only pack what I need, and you know, my kit is lean, and as you'll see, everything serves a purpose with the gear that I do bring away. And I tell you what, nothing comes along for the ride unless it does serve a purpose. You know, and everything has a place. You know, it's well set up in the back of my four-wheel drive here. I don't have to go digging around to try and find everything. I know where everything is, whatever items I do need to get out. And I suppose that just comes with, you know, with years of finally, you know, fine-tuning the gear that I've got here and know exactly where I put it. And I pack everything, when it comes to weight, I try and pack everything, you know, with all the heavy items sitting down low just to keep that weight down low. So let's get this gear out and you'll see what I mean. Let's check it out. All right, so let's make a bit of a start. So at the top up here, here's my camp chair. Look, everyone needs a camp chair. But again, you know, nice and easily packed, and I can easily get that out too, you know, if I, you know, pull up on the side of the road somewhere or pull up for some lunch somewhere, I can easily get my camp chair out. So that's no worries getting that out. Throw that down there. And then, you know, good old swag sitting in the back in here. Again, easy to get in and out if I need, when I need it. No dramas with that. And then, you know, up here, I've just got, you know, bag of clothes. Well, bag of clothes is a bit of a personal choice on how much you want to take away. Depends on how much you do and don't feel the cold. So, you know, that's my bag of clothes. That's pretty much all I take away there. And then we get into this area here. Now, in this area here, there's still a spot there. I do have another one of these boxes at home, which I would take for a food box. So, you know, if I'm heading away for a longer trip, well, that box would certainly come along. But in a minute, I'll get these boxes out and you'll see how much gear's in those, because there's not much in there, but it's got everything that I totally need. And then up the top up here, now this is a really handy shelf. I put this shelf in probably a couple of years ago now, and I just made it up out of a bit of leftover screen door mesh that I had at home, which is what my cargo barrier is also made out of there. But this this shelf up here is very handy for, you know, just these bulky sort of items. So we'll hook that up there. You know, that's my tarp that, you know, I use for putting up when I'm going to camp out, sleep under that. Plenty of videos you've probably seen of me tarp set up. And then up the top up there, you know, there's a couple of pillows. I certainly like a couple of pillows when I'm sleeping there in my swag. And then up the back up there, there's just another blanket. And then, just in case, you know, might feel a bit cold there one night, but I've got two blankets there in my swag, which generally plenty. A big dry-as-bone coat, that always comes away with me. Just never know when it's going to rain, you know, always got to be prepared for those sort of things. But yeah, up the top up there, there's just another blanket. Now all of this sort of stuff would normally get, you know, stacked on top of my boxes. It was just a real pain in the neck. Whereas now boxes are all free, very easy to get to. Just got to get the swag out, get the chair out, and then I've got full access to all that sort of stuff. And then there's my log splitter, you know, that just sits in the back there. Again, very easy to get that in and out. I'll get my table out and then I'll sit some boxes up on top of my table, and then you can see what's inside these boxes, because yeah, it's a pretty cool setup. Again, you know, that's pretty easy to get to. Righto, we'll get this set up and we'll get a few boxes out. Okay, so now we'll get my first box out. And that's what I sort of like about the boxes too, because, you know, I pick these up and I take them to where I want. You know, generally sit them down there out there beside my full drive there when I've got my camp and I've got the tarp and everything all set up. I like the fact that I can move these around. So this is my sort of food box and all my utensils box, which, you know, you're going to see pretty basic. So this is the setup that I've got here. Up in the lid up here, it's got two plates, that's it. 2 plates. I've got my knife sharpener there, a couple of knife selections there, from a serrated one to a sharp knife there, a couple of pair of tongs, all built into the top of the lid there. Now I settle that up myself in there, just, you know, carved out some grooves there and mounted those in there, rather than having loose lying around inside the box in there. So yeah, that's really handy to get to, so very easy to get those in and out. You can see, there's not much in here. This is a kit that I would probably take away, going away for a few days. But as far as the plates and the knives and forks box, which I'll get out in a minute, this wouldn't matter if I was going away for a one-nighter or I was going away for a week. This would not change. They all just stay the same. So in there, that's just a box there that I've got just some of my electronic stuff going in there. Got my, my head torches and those sort of things. Just keep those in a nice box, easy to get to when I need them. Again, just a couple of variety of different bowls there that I've got for mixing things up, dampers and whatever else. They go in there. Just got my torch in that one in there. For getting around at night time. A little bit of food, there's not a great deal in there, but here's the main items. I just got a big plastic spoon, potato masher there when I'm steaming up some mashed potato, that sort of thing. But here's the main box. Let's get into this box, because this one here has just got all my knives, forks and those sort of things, and a couple of cups in it. And this is, again, all the stuff that I bring. So I've just got 2 cups. You've seen those, depending on whether I want a big cup in the morning or a small cup in the morning. Well, I've got a couple of options there. And then in here, this is all I've got. This is it. Oh, another sharp knife there. So that's now empty, all right? So all I bring is just got another little knife there. And I just bring two eating utensil knives in case I forget to wash one day and I need another one. So I've got 2 eating utensil knives, a bit of a potato peeler. Again, 2 forks, that is it. I just bring 2 forks again in case I, forget to wash one or something one day. I don't bring half a dozen knives and half a dozen forks. I just cut it right down. A bit of a mixer there for beating up eggs if I'm doing scrambled eggs or something one morning. That's a really handy little gadget to have. I just have 1 spoon, that's enough. I don't really use a great deal of those sort of spoons. Oh, there's another fork, so I've got 3. Better get rid of that one. And then just another little small knife, just for cutting up any sort of things. And then just got a little cheese board there, bigger one there, just in case I need a bigger one for cutting up some cheeses or, buttering me toast or whatever on. Just a couple of things there. And that is that box. That is that box done and dusted. And as I said, the items that I've got there laid out on the table, that would not change even if I was going away for a longer trip. That is it. The only thing it would change a bit more, I would put certainly a lot more food to be going in that box, and then I would bring that other spare one that I've still got at home, I'd turn that into another food box. But for this trip, just a quick overnight I'm heading away from, this is all I need to take away. Righto, so that's that box packed away. Again, very little gear. I don't need a lot. I know, I come away by myself and, you sort of don't need much, but, if you're bringing families and those sort of things away, well, that's when you've got to, look at how much gear you do need to bring. But this might just give you some ideas on maybe where you can cut back. And like I said, just your knives and forks and those sort of things, instead of bringing, half a dozen for 1 or 2 people, just cut them right back to how much you need and to keep it very simple. So I'll put that box down there and then I'll get out my next one. Again, when I talked about, packing my gear for weight and keeping all the weight down low, these 2 boxes here are pretty heavy. There's a fair bit of weight in them. This is all my cast iron gear in this, and that's why that box sits down the bottom, and then I'll show you what's in that one in a minute. So this one here, this is all, camp oven, that sort of stuff. And that's pretty much all the gear in there. And this box here, this is all to do with everything to do with cooking, fires, getting fires going and that sort of thing. It's got a bit of a hand saw there that I use sometimes for cutting up some wood. Got a little saucepan there that I use for various different little cook-ups and things. Fire lighters, never leave home without fire lighters. You just never know when you're going to need those. And then there's my big fry pan, which you've certainly seen that plenty used plenty of times. And then, my little toasted sandwich maker, my jaffle iron, a couple of egg flips there as well. And then in the corner here, it's got my old kettle, my billy that I use for my morning brews. But this is the hand little kit I've got down here too, just in the corner down here. This is just a little odds and ends box for things that I'm just going to need, keep in there. Got some matches in there. My flint goes in there for lighting my campfires. That's just a little, I use this sometimes if I'm, want to boil up some water or something on the side of the road. A little jet boil thing there going on there. That just screws onto the top of a canister there, and can boil up some water pretty quickly. I have used that a few times. It's not a bad little handy little gadget, that one. Don't mind that one at all. But yeah, that just lives in that box in there. So that's just handy little stuff. And again, I try and keep everything, you know, in boxes rather than, you know, all just loosely just thrown inside the big box in here. You know, it's in there. That's all little odds and ends in there. Just again, keep into a little box rather than have it just all loose lying around. Nice and easy, handy to get to. And so this is sort of my workhorse box, I suppose, if you like, because it's got my full kitchen in it. You know, I'd like to try and see you pack up your kitchen at home into a little box like this, because it'd be pretty struggling, I think. But, you know, as you've seen in my videos, you know, I cook up some amazing meals and everything comes out of this box here. So yeah, this is my go-to box for my cooking gear. So we'll check out the last one, but this box in here, very rarely does it ever come out of my full drive, because there's only probably one item that I really take out of it all the time, and I'll show you that one in a minute. Let's have a look at that one. Righto, I'll just show you this last box that I've got here. As I said, very rarely do I ever take this one out of the back of my full drive. It just sits in there, stays in there all the time. I'll just open it up from the back there and get whatever I need out of it. So that's this one here. So inside this one, there's my pegs and ropes bag that I use when I set my tarp up. That all travels in that bag in there. Little blue tarp there, which goes under my swag, which I've seen that plenty of times. That sits in here. And then just this one here, that's just my, you know, my bucket, which I've seen that a few times, where I use that for boiling up water away when I'm away on my trips. But again, it all just sits in there nice and neatly, and everything fits inside these little boxes, and it's, you know, it just works an absolute treat. And then I'll put everything all back in. What else have I got in there? It's got a little base plate there in case I've got a, you know, get a flat tire or whatever else. Got something there I can use a jacking plate, put my jack on top of. And then just down in the corner down here, just a nice little toolbox with, you know, just odds and ends, little repairs in case I've got to do some change an idler pulley belt or little knickknacks and things that might go wrong with the patrol. But so that's just a little toolbox there, just with some gear in it. Again, not very heavy, and all nicely neat and packed in there nicely down the bottom. Just how I sort of like it, and so, you know, everything's all so easy to get to, and everything's got a place. You know, I pack everything away in exactly the same place every single time, and then that way, when you goes to, you know, you're going to need some gear for whatever it is you got to get into. You know, you might be using drawers in the back of your full drive, and, you know, you might be using boxes like what I'm using here. But if you keep everything in the same place, you know, don't mix everything around. You know, keep it in the same place, and then everything's going to be so easy to find, you know, when you want to go and get it. But yeah, one thing I like about these is when I get home, I take all this stuff out. You know, I don't drive around all the time with all this gear in the back of my trolley here again. So it's just a handy little setup, and yeah, that one just lives in there all the time. So I'll show you what's going on in the very back of my patrol and how much room I've got in there, because again, I've got stacks. Let's check that out. Righto, and then in the back in here, you know, I've still got plenty of room in here. Got my couple of fridges over there. My cook set, it sits nicely in between the fridge and, you know, and the back of the seats there. My tent poles that I've got here that I use for setting up my awning, they just slide in there nicely. And then I've still got plenty of room in here, you know, which I try and keep as much as I can in the back behind the cargo barrier in there. And try and keep everything as, you know, as balanced up as best I can over the back wheels as well. So, you know, in here, plenty of room. Got my jerry can up the back up here. You know, that just attached to the back of the cargo barrier in there. But yeah, travelling light is certainly the way to go. There you go, guys. Well, that's my lightweight solo camping setup. It's efficient, everything's got a place, and it's built for purpose. Hope you've got something out of this. Maybe you can make some changes to your solo camping setup, cut down some weight, cut down some items that you don't need, you don't necessarily use, get rid of them if you don't need them. Thanks very much for watching, guys. Catch you on the next one. Hooroo!